Yeah, that was a tremendous catch by Marvin. I mean, I was amazed. It was like he jumped up and caught it by his ankles. I mean, it was just an acrobatic catch by just a tremendously talented player. So it was fun to watch him out there. And I mean, what can you say about somebody who's throwing the ball like that in 20-mile-an-hour wind? At least it seemed like it was. I mean, it was blowing it a couple times, and for him to throw it that accurately, that was really well done on the road.
All right, Ohio State's really good. Ohio State's really good. Ohio State they're my number one team in the country. A lot of people, they got a lot more number one votes, in particular after Alabama struggled. And I told you last week that with Bryce Young's injury, Ohio State's the number one team. Now, Georgia jumped all the way up there to number one. I don't really know for what reason, but that's fine. I think Alabama is more complete, certainly, than even Georgia. And that might raise some eyebrows, but that's what the data bears out. And just a quick note about what that was Ryan Day after the win over Michigan State. They housed Michigan State. Michigan State's not a very good football team at all. They outgained them by 412 yards in Spartan Stadium. I mean, it's just that's not a good team. Having said that, though, I mean, C.J. Stroud, I think he was like 20 of 25 for almost 400 yards and 5 tugs, one interception. They scored touchdowns on 7 of their first 8 possessions. The only possession that they didn't score a touchdown, they actually threw a pick 6. That's the only. They housed Michigan State. It wasn't even close. The last 2 years has not even been close. C.J. Stroud is not miles, but certainly in the lead right now for the Heisman Trophy, the way that he's playing. Marvin Harrison is a freak. Abuka, a freak. Fleming, a freak. Henderson, a freak. And they don't even have their biggest freak back, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, this is the best offense in the country. It's not quite close, and everyone's going to have to deal with them at some point this year. This Ohio State team is way different than what we've seen over the last couple of years. In the last couple of years, and really since Ryan Day became the offensive coordinator, they've been great on offense. Great. But only one of those years did I think that they were legitimately complete enough as a team, in particular on defense, to really threaten for the national championship. Now, they played for the national championship in the COVID year, but they had some glaring weaknesses, in particular on that defense, and it came up in a huge way against that great Alabama team in the national championship game. Having said that, this is their best team since 2019, that team that was led by coordinator Jeff Hafley and Chase Young. Let's see, who was Damon Arnett was on that team. Jeff Okudah was on that team. Fuller was there. I mean, they were really good. They were really good. Trevor Lawrence beat them in the semifinal. That was an epic game. This team, though, reminds me a little of that team. Not quite as dominant on the defensive side, but I think even better on the offensive side. This is a better offense. Right now, I think that, and I've said this, I don't know how many times, that's the best offense in the country. So, Joel, where does that leave us? What does their defense have to do? And I will continue to say this about Ohio State. If they have a top 25 defense, then they can win the national championship. Not that they will, just that they can. Outside of that, it's I just don't see it. Remember, because there's only been 2 teams really in you would call it modern college football, really since the start of the BCS, that has won a national championship without a top 25 defense. That was Auburn with Cam Newton and LSU's Joe Burrow team. So it's rare. It's very rare. And by the way, Joe Burrow, look at his stats that year. I mean, as good as Stroud is, he's not Joe Burrow from 2019. But you look up at the stats now, and stats aren't everything, and you can't encapsulate an entire year or a team's chances just based on stats. But that one's pretty clear. You better have a defense that is good enough. Good enough for me is top 25. Pretty good is top 15. And look at where Ohio State sits. 15th right now in the country in scoring defense, number 7 in total defense. Do you know who's number 8 in total defense right now? I think it might shock you. Georgia. So that means, wait, Joel. You're telling me that Ohio State right now is 1 spot above Georgia in total defense, and that's exactly what I'm telling you. I know Missouri is really tough, as Kirby told us. And listen, Ohio State hasn't played a difficult schedule, and I'm not going to argue that they have. In fact, that was their first road game. They handled it with ease. It's been a very easy schedule. Part of the reason it's been very easy is because they've been dominant all over the place. We saw it early, even in a game in which their offense wasn't great against Notre Dame. Their defense was really good. 7th in total defense, 1 spot ahead of Georgia. They're the number 1 scoring offense in the country, and that's only going to continue. Ohio State, for me, is the most, excuse me, look at that, I hit the microphone. Ohio State, for me, is the most complete team in the country, and that's why, for me, they're the number 1 team in the country. They're the only team that has not shown an absolute stinker of a performance. They're the only ones. Everybody else has, if you're really being honest with yourself.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.